Thank you all for joining today's webinar with the Research Triangle region in North Carolina. This is part of a series of SelectUSA virtual tours that the SelectUSA team is offering. My name is Greg Caldwell, and I'm the Executive Director of SelectUSA. I'm happy to be speaking with all of you today and look forward to a great presentation by Ryan Combs, who's the Executive Director of the Research Triangle Partnership. SelectUSA is the government-wide initiative tasked with advancing President Trump's trade and economic agenda by actively promoting foreign direct investment into the United States. President Trump's pro-growth policies have made the U.S. the #1 destination for business investment, ensuring economic growth and creating opportunities for hardworking Americans. In fact, just last week, the Atti FDI Confidence Index once again ranked the United States as the #1 investment destination for CEOs for some of the world's largest corporations. The Trump administration is working hard to create an environment in which companies operating in the U.S. can flourish. We're reducing burdensome regulations. We've lowered tax rates. We're focused on protecting IP and improving infrastructure. In short, we're doing everything humanly possible to make sure that it's easier and less expensive for companies to expand their operations by doing business here in the U.S. Hopefully you're all familiar with SelectUSA and our team and what we can do to support your business investors as they look to invest in the United States and succeed in the US. For those of you who may be less familiar, our services include information and counseling, such as market research to help your company develop an FDI strategy to establish or expand operations in the US. We do events and services that provide an unparalleled platform for connections and an in-depth and on-the-ground expertise at the state and local level, like we're doing today. Assistance in navigating the federal regulatory system as well. We provide an ombudsman service for those of you new to investing in the US or who may have challenges with other federal agencies. And I would ask that we move to the next slide. As since we can't gather in person right now, we're doing a lot of virtual events. So we're partnering with EDOs, offering virtual tours in locations across the US. These will offer business investors like yourselves an overview of existing opportunities in different sectors and locations across the U.S. In 2021, international companies will have the opportunity to tour the locations that we're showcasing through this series, and then they'll be able to do it in person at the 2021 Investment Summit, which will take place June 6th through 9th in Washington, D.C., and we hope to see you all at that. It's quite an event. We have over 3,000 investors from all around the world and 3,000 attendees from all around the world, including a lot of potential investors and companies from all around the globe. Registration for that summit will be open in September. We invite all of you to join at that time. This virtual tour of the Research Triangle region's ICT and healthcare sectors in North Carolina is critical, will be critical information for your companies as you plan for your future investments. The next event in this series will be taking place on July 9th and will focus on the ICT sector in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If you'd like to RSVP for the upcoming virtual tours or any other virtual investment programs, please visit our website at selectusa.gov and subscribe to our mailing list to receive updates. SelectUSA and our colleagues located in the U.S. Commercial Service in North Carolina are here to assist your company if you have any questions. So feel free to email as selectusa@trade.gov. So with that, I'd like to thank the U.S. Commercial Service in North Carolina, the Research Triangle Region Partnership, and all of our speakers today for putting on this great event. This is near and dear to my heart. Prior to joining the Trump administration, I was an executive in a life sciences company, so I have the opportunity to spend a lot of time in the Research Triangle with the great companies, with the great academics, with the great infrastructure that they have down there. You know, there are a few better places to do business in the world, so everybody is going to enjoy this presentation, I'm sure. And with that, Ryan, the floor is yours.
Greg, thanks so much. I really appreciate the warm welcome and thank you for your leadership with SelectUSA. I can vouch for SelectUSA. We've worked with them quite a bit over the last couple of years, and I'm so sorry that this year's got canceled, but we're thrilled to be able to do this webinar today, and we really appreciate all the efforts that SelectUSA does, not only for us, but all of our colleagues in economic development throughout the United States. So I particularly want to thank Ethel Glenn, who played a pivotal role this morning in making sure this webinar happened. So thank you, Ethel. I also want to thank the U.S. Commercial Service North Carolina for the constant support they provide us. We work with the team here in North Carolina just about every day, and they're a great partner. And I believe Sharif Lowe's is on the call. And Sharif, thank you for all that you do for us. And to all of our international guests, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us on this webinar. I'm excited to share with you some insightful information on both our great state and the Research Triangle region. As Greg mentioned, my name is Ryan Combs, and I'm the Executive Director of the Research Triangle Regional Partnership. We're an 11-county regional economic development organization, and our mission is to build international relationships and be the connection point for companies when they're interested in North Carolina. We work closely with each of our 11 member counties, and I appreciate some of my colleagues being on the call today as well. I'd also like to thank Bill Bullock, the Vice President of North Carolina Biotech Center, and Tony Atti, the co-founder and CEO of Phononic, for both joining us as well on the call. Before I focus on the Triangle region, I thought it'd be important just to give an overview of the state of North Carolina. For many of you, this may be the first time you've ever heard anything about North Carolina. You can see us here located on the map. North Carolina is the 17th largest state in the country in size of terrain, roughly 800 kilometers east to west and 300 kilometers north to south. We're the 9th most populous state with a population of 10.5 million people. And as you can see, we're centrally located about halfway between New York and Orlando. And from where we are, our location also gives us access to about 60% of the US population within a one-day's drive. Our location also provides us with great climate. Average temperature in the winter is about 7 degrees Celsius, spring 18 degrees, summer it gets up to about 32 degrees, and in the fall it's back down to about 16 degrees Celsius. We may get snow once a year, but as I tell people, you can pretty much play golf 10 months a year here in North Carolina. We have two deep water ports. We have 3 rail carriers that make up the largest consolidated rail system in the country. And we're second only to Texas in the number of kilometers of paved roads. We have 128,000 kilometers of paved roads here in North Carolina. We also have one of the largest military footprints in the United States, including Fort Bragg, which is one of the largest military installations in the world. We're home to 130,000 active duty military and about 736,000 veterans in North Carolina. Our state in the past was primarily known for agriculture, specifically tobacco, and textile and furniture manufacturing. And while our textile industry has suffered, agriculture continues to be one of our biggest industries, and it contributes over $90 billion to the state economy each year. I have a lot more to share with you, but first, a little history lesson. You may or may not be aware that North Carolina was where the first flight took place. Pictured here is Orville and Wilbur Wright taking flight in Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina, which is on our coast. And the date was December 17th, 1903. They flew 4 flights that day, and their longest flight was 59 seconds and went 261 meters. We're very proud to be associated with such an important piece of history, and our license plate reflects that, as you can see, as it says first in flight. But I tend to believe this slogan serves multiple purposes for North Carolina. We're equally proud of the next person I'm about to talk about. North Carolina is home to Michael Jordan. Michael's originally from Wilmington, North Carolina. He attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And this is his game-winning shot in the 1982 National Championship. And then the timeless photograph of him in the dunk contest, and the rest is history, the best NBA player of all time. And he's still here, and he's the current owner of the NBA's Charlotte Hornets. You know, another thing that North Carolina takes great pride in is the beauty of our state. For a long time, it was a big secret, but I'm afraid now the secret's getting out. In 2018, 51 million visitors came to North Carolina and spent $25.3 billion. That's roughly $69 million a day. Our beaches are by far one of our biggest tourist attractions. We have 518 kilometers of beautiful ocean coastline, 7 beautiful lighthouses along the coast. The one you see in the pictures, Cape Lookout. And we had over 5,000 shipwrecks off our coast. We're known as the graveyard of the Atlantic since the 1530s. And we believe the shipwrecks are what gave us these wild horses that roam our coastline. They're descendants of Spanish Mustangs that washed ashore during a shipwreck. Great, beautiful beaches, and you can be there in just about 2 hours from where we live right here in the Triangle. Golfing is another major attraction in North Carolina. We have over 600 golf courses in the state. And pictured here is Pinehurst number 2, which is known throughout the world, and it's just about an hour south drive of the Triangle. We also have beautiful lakes throughout the state, many of them that are in our own region, including Lake Gaston, Jordan Lake, and Hyco Lake. Great for outdoor fun. And then in the western part of North Carolina, we have our beautiful mountains. We're part of the Blue Ridge Parkway. And the home you're looking at is Biltmore State. It was the largest privately, or is the largest privately owned home in the U.S. It was completed in 1895 by George Vanderbilt, who was the grandson of Cornelius Vanderbilt, who was the wealthiest American when he died in the 1860s. And then another thing that's happening out west in the mountains is Western North Carolina has really become a thriving brewery destination. It's fueled the growth of that industry in the state. We now have 300 breweries in the state. And the one pictured here is Sierra Nevada. That's the third largest private owned brewery in the U.S. So clearly we have a lot going on in tourism, but we're also thriving in other areas. And so I'll go back talking a little bit more about the state of North Carolina. We're currently one of the fastest growing states in the United States. In the last 25 years, our population has grown by 47%. And in the last 10 years, 28% of that population growth has been international growth. For the last 2 years, Forbes has ranked us the best state for business. And we currently have the lowest corporate tax rate in the country at 2.5%. If North Carolina were a country, we would be one of the top 30 GDPs in the world. Last year's GDP was $566 billion. A lot of that is our banking and finance sector that's really growing in Charlotte and in Raleigh. And now let me pivot to the Triangle region. The Research Triangle region, as I mentioned earlier, it's 11 of the 100 counties. Our population is roughly 2.1 million of the 10.5 million residents of North Carolina. And our average age is 37 years old. And we have roughly 70 people a day moving here. If you're wondering where we get our name, the Research Triangle region, that's because we're the home of the Research Triangle Park. The Research Triangle Park is the largest research park in the country. It has 50,000 employees and 250 companies. And the park really is what changed our state from the trajectory we were going in agriculture and textiles and turned us into this research hub. The thought process when they created the park was it put it right in the middle of our 3 Tier 1 research universities. And now today in our region, we have 10 colleges and universities, 176,000 annual students, 46,000 annual graduates. 44% of our urban population has a bachelor's degree from university, and we also have one of the highest concentrations of PhDs in the country. And now, as you see on the slide before you, one of the things that's really happened over the last 15 and 20 years is we've really become a hub for research. Last year alone, our 3 Tier 1 research universities did $2.9 billion in federal research. And a lot of that is in the life sciences and healthcare. Our one university, the one I told you about with Michael Jordan, UNC Chapel Hill, they alone did close to $1 billion in NIH research last year alone. Another economic engine for our region is our airport. Pre-COVID, we were breaking passenger levels every month at the airport. We've got 10 carriers. We had 61 direct flights, 7 international destinations, including a direct flight to both London and Paris, 607 daily takeoff and landing. And we were just recently awarded one of the top 5 best large airports in the country. As you can see, in 2019, we had 14.2 million passengers, which was a 55% increase since 2011, and nearly 150% increase in total annual international traffic over the last 5 years. One of the things the airport has done, and really the research as well, is it's really grown our international footprint. As you can see from the slide before you, we have over 700 international companies that call our region home. A lot of that population growth I mentioned earlier is happening because, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So as you can see, we've had a 70% growth from 2000 to 2018. And most of that growth has occurred right here in the triangle, as you can see. A big reason people are moving here is our cost of living. As you can see, if 100 is the national average, we fall below the national average. So 92 is where we fall under the 100 national average. So cost of living is relatively cheap compared to some of the other markets in the United States. As you can see from a cost comparison, some of our competitor markets, if you look at the average home prices, you can see where Raleigh and Durham fall. It's a very affordable place to live. You can own a home very reasonably priced, and you can also see before you the average apartment rents in both Raleigh and Durham and in some of our other markets. But what makes our region so great is you don't have to live in the city. We have beautiful suburbs and we have rural communities all within a 45-minute drive. And, you know, really post-COVID, what we're hearing a lot of is we're seeing a lot of interest in our region and specifically in our more rural communities. And you can see some of the home prices, where home prices fall in some of our rural communities. And all of these counties are about a 45-minute drive from our urban core of Raleigh and Durham. We saw recently a survey that said 27% of adults that were polled about post-COVID are considering moving out of the big cities, and 43% of millennials polled said they're thinking of moving out of the city and into the suburbs or rural areas. And so we really think that our region is going to be prepared well to absorb some of the people that are looking to relocate in the next year or so because of COVID. And quality of life is really now becoming much more of an important factor in people's decisions. And I don't think you can get much more better than quality of life that we have right here in the Triangle. You can see from our traffic patterns that we can commute all around our region. We have very good roads, and we do not spend much time in traffic, as you can see, compared to some of our other markets. Now getting into our industries. We're very well rounded here. We do a lot of research, as I said, and a lot of different things. Life sciences we're probably best known for, but we're also big in agriculture technology, IoT, advanced manufacturing, and clean tech. Our ag tech cluster, we've got just over 100 companies, over 4,000 employees, and we're projected to grow in our ag tech by 17% over the next 5 years. A lot of that has to do with North Carolina State University's College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. They're very easy to work with, and they're great to do business with. They have some great existing relationships with some of our larger companies. Clean tech is actually our fastest growing market. It's projected to grow at 24% over the next 5 years. And we've got one of the largest clusters of smart grid companies in the country right here in the Triangle. Our tech sector is growing. We were recently ranked one of the top fastest growing tech hubs in the country. 60,000 employees, another projected 17% growth rate over the next 5 years, and just over 4,000 companies. We're home to SAS, the largest privately owned data analytics company in the country. We're also home to Epic Games. And our life sciences, I mentioned earlier, that's really what we're known for, is our life science sector. Bill Bullock's going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second, but 560 companies, over 24,000 employees. And we have more people employed in North Carolina in biopharmaceutical manufacturing than any other state in the country. And then this is something I'm really proud of. We're really becoming a startup community here. We have 2,500 startups that have been established. Our universities, particularly our big three, Duke, NC State, and UNC, last year spun out 47 companies combined. People are finding that the ease of doing business, the ease of meeting other entrepreneurs is so great here in the region. And we have really developed a lot of co-working spaces and incubators, including American Underground in Durham, HQ Raleigh, in downtown Raleigh, and the Frontier, which is right in the middle of the Research Triangle Park. Another important asset that we have here is NC State's Centennial Campus. We have 76. This is a model that's 30 years old now, but it was pretty forward thinking at the time when they decided to do it. So you have the College of Engineering, the College of Textiles, and soon the College of Ag and Life Sciences all on this campus, but you also have private sector and government organizations. So we have 76 industry, government, and nonprofit partners on campus. They all have access to NC State students. And as you can see, it is literally 5 minutes from downtown Raleigh. And we're really excited to be working with NC State in March of next year. We believe March or April, depending on COVID. We're looking to launch an international, an international soft landing program where eligible companies will be able to come and do an immersion program for a week here in the Triangle to learn more about the Triangle. So you can, if you're interested in that, please feel free to reach out to me after this is over. And so just closing out for the RTRP, as I said, we are your partner, your connection, and your advocate and guide. If you have any questions, we would love to introduce you to the Triangle region, get you connected with all of our great partners here in the region and in the state. And now at this time, I'd like to turn it over to my friend Bill Bullock, who's the Vice President of North Carolina Biotech Center. We're truly lucky to have this state agency here in North Carolina, and they do a lot of great work here. And I will turn it over to Bill.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan. I hope everyone can hear me. I do not have any slides, so bear with me. I also am going to be very diligent of time. I've got my, Ryan, you'll be happy to know I've got my clock right here. So I will keep to my 10 minutes. Wherever you are, welcome. It's our pleasure to have an opportunity to spend a few minutes with you. As Ryan mentioned, I'm with the North Carolina Biotechnology Center. We are a state-funded organization within North Carolina that has been around for quite a while. So we've really been able to be a part of the transformation of the state of North Carolina through life sciences. And I'll share just a little bit about who we are, but mostly in the context of why you would care to know that, wherever you may be. Our organization has a series of programs that really allow us to work with the state and the industry, from the innovation side to the technology translation side into the job creation and ultimate sector support. We do that through a series of grant programs. We have some low interest loan programs for startup companies. We have a team that works with very closely with Ryan and the Research Triangle Regional Partnership, and a lot of the partners, some of the partners I know of the partnership are on this call right now, which will be a big theme of my comments, and that is the partnership and collaboration in this area. So our team generally assists. We actually, in addition to working with companies to help them come into or expand within North Carolina, we have the capacity to impact the ecosystem as well, through working with the universities and the colleges and industry and government to help build that innovation pipeline, move technologies out of the universities into the communities, and then help companies grow. Ryan did a nice job of noting a lot of the kind of attributes of the area. I'll give you a little broader statewide perspective. The state overall has over 730 life science companies, and that's a very targeted, concentrated number. Our affiliated companies that work to support that industry are well over 2,400. And within that, we have over 125 companies that focus just purely on the production and manufacturing space, focused solely on life sciences. Excuse me. As Ryan had mentioned, we graduate a lot of folks here. It's one of our key attributes in North Carolina is workforce. It's our kind of our mainstay for what's helped build this life science industry. We graduate nearly 5,000 graduates in biological sciences or biomedical degrees in the state, and just over 4,000 in engineering degrees. So there's a huge reservoir not only of existing talent from those companies that I noted earlier, but we're constantly supplying folks into that workforce. For a lot of you, you're interested in the international flavor. Our life sciences is very diverse. I think it's one of the great attributes of North Carolina. We have almost 90 international life science companies in the state. Nearly 20,000 folks work for those companies, and it represents over 20 different countries. Again, Ryan's done a nice job of kind of giving the statistics on the industry. What I wanted to focus on is why you would care. If you're somewhere globally and you're interested in some aspect of North Carolina, be it getting access to the U.S. market, establishing a beachhead in North Carolina, getting access to partnerships and collaborations, trade, whatever that might be, what makes North Carolina unique? And for us, we're very fortunate that we do have some very unique elements of that. It's very difficult. You can't make up life sciences. You have to have strong R1 capabilities at your universities. You have to have the capacity to build workforce through your technical community colleges and junior colleges. and you have to build a strong base. North Carolina has those assets. So we at the center focus on kind of three pieces, the three A's, the triple A, if you will, of economic development: assets, access, and the ability to accelerate. You're interested in the acceleration piece. If you, whatever your interest in business is in the U.S., in North Carolina in particular, it generally focuses on how does that community uniquely help you accelerate whatever aspect you're trying to do. But without the assets and without organizations like the Biotech Center, Research Triangle Regional Partnership, and the other partners on this call, you don't get access to those assets is really of limited value to you. One of the unique aspects of North Carolina's life science community is its diversity. So North Carolina sits as one of the top 5 clusters for life sciences in the U.S. in general, but it has a very unique position in 3 key areas. So the kind of 3 key areas of the industrial pipeline are research and development. The next piece after development would be the clinical or med testing space, clinical research, clinical development, or medical testing and testing space if you're an ag, and ultimately manufacturing, production, and market. North Carolina, as Ryan alluded to, has tremendous assets in the research and development space, some of the best university research capability in the Triangle region of anywhere in the world. North Carolina is a leader in the clinical research and med testing space. We have companies like LabCorp, IQVIA, PPD, all headquartered here in North Carolina and within the region, in the Triangle region. I should note too that the general numbers that I gave and the numbers Ryan gave, if you look at North Carolina in general, the activity of the Triangle generally accommodates 65 to 70% of North Carolina's overall life science area. So while life sciences impact the entire state, it's clear that a nexus for that activity is here in the Triangle. So we have diversity not only in our capabilities from research development, clinical medical testing, and manufacturing, and Ryan already noted our capabilities on the manufacturing side. On the biologics-focused manufacturing, we're the #1 location in the U.S., have the most employees in that space. But we're also very diverse in terms of how the application of life sciences is impacting North Carolina. We're very strong in human health. We're very strong in animal health. Ryan mentioned our capability in plant agriculture. We're a global leader in plant agriculture. We're very strong in industrial applications of life sciences. And we're becoming a global head for this convergence of information technology with biology. And we're seeing a lot of that right now in COVID. North Carolina has been a very major player in the elements of testing, treatment, and vaccination as we look globally on how we come together to find solutions to the coronavirus pandemic and COVID-19. So as I watch closely my time, let me just add a couple other thoughts here. We do have, Ryan mentioned a couple of points of access. The Biotech Center is part of that as well. We have something called the landing pad. So what we're trying to do in North Carolina, one, is to build this incredibly diverse, incredibly rich, incredibly accessible life science community. We're East Coast, folks looking to get access to the U.S. market. We're a very good landing spot for that, for all the reasons that Ryan's already defined. We have something called the landing pad at the North Carolina Biotech Center. Our headquarter location, our headquarter campus is right in the middle of Research Triangle Park. And within that, we have a 4-story building, 2 floors of which we have office space that we lease. We'll lease an office, we'll lease a floor, but it's a very easy way to come into the marketplace. You're right there. Our entire Biotech Center RTP staff, a majority of it's right there at the headquarters. You're not very far from RTRP and really from the center of all the life science activity across the entire region. So again, I wanted to highlight a couple of things. I want to just reiterate as I leave. Workforce availability, second to none in the life science space in North Carolina. The diversity of that life science capability, whether you're working in human health, plant agriculture, industrial life sciences, precision health, digital health, North Carolina is a hub. And that is why we have the reputation as one of the top 5 locations. If you undergird all that capability in assets and access with the cost effectiveness and the accessibility from a travel perspective, really creates a unique unique opportunity for folks if they come into North Carolina on the life science space. So with that, I will be here to answer some questions as well in a moment. I appreciate Ryan. Greg, maybe you'll chime in later. I noticed you spent some time at Pharma and Alexion. So as you mentioned, you have a perspective on our life sciences in North Carolina. And again, thanks to everyone for the opportunity. And Ryan, thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thanks so much, Bill. And Bill and I will be here after to answer any questions you may have. Certainly appreciate his partnership. So Bill and I both are in the economic development space. So this is our job. But I'm really excited for our next speaker to give you a perspective on doing business in the Triangle region. His name's Tony Atti, and Tony is a rock star. I love listening to him talk. He's from New York. He was living in California. He co-founded this incredible company. He could have done it anywhere in the country, but he chose to do it in the Research Triangle region. You're really going to enjoy hearing him speak. And Tony, it's so great to see you, and I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, Ryan and everyone. Thank you. We're delighted to be featured this morning, and that's an incredibly warm entree or welcome from Ryan. We're great supporters of those economic development initiatives. As Ryan mentioned, good morning. My name is Tony Atti. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Phononic. Over the last 20 years, my career has covered research and development, venture capital investment in technology companies, and entrepreneurial leadership of venture capital-backed companies, which is my current role at Phononic. If you look at the disruptive nature of technology companies, my specialty has often been those technologies that are either in the sustainability or clean tech field, or more specific to this discussion, were incubated at a university at the time of their origination, just like Phononic. Those companies bring a unique set of commercialization and ecosystem challenges that makes the region particularly important. In our case, semiconductor innovation, the likes of which made Silicon Valley famous, has transformed data, communications, solar power, and LED lighting, all from the makings of a thumbnail-sized semiconductor chip. Yet for Phononic, taking on a more than $30 billion a year cooling opportunity that's been dominated for almost 200 years by mechanically driven compressor systems. That is a bold and audacious opportunity. It requires entrepreneurs to be fast and agile, but in this relative system that we play in, it requires our ecosystem and our geography to be just as fast and agile as we are. When I founded this company, we were virtual. A handful of postdocs and research scientists across a handful of universities. I traveled the country monitoring a series of technology experiments. As that technology came to life, with the backing of Silicon Valley investors, we had to choose a home. As Ryan mentioned, having grown up in a Rust Belt city, then lived in California and New York City down to Carolina, we had a complete open canvas as to where we would locate our company. We did a complete investigation of all of the traditional semiconductor or material science centers of excellence before ultimately settling on the Research Triangle region and finding a home within the Research Triangle Park. But our first headquarters was actually on Centennial campus at NC State University. Within a matter of weeks of making that decision, my team had laboratory and office space for best-in-class semiconductor manufacturing equipment in a matter of days and weeks, which is incredibly unusual. While that technology team came to life leveraging Centennial campus's resources, I was pursuing a more formal manufacturing facility out in Research Triangle Park. In a matter of months, not years, but months, we brought on a more than 25,000 square foot state-of-the-art semiconductor manufacturing facility where we manufacture all of our chips, test for reliability and compliance, and then even do rapid prototyping of our chips into finished goods, all from North Carolina. With that footprint, we have grown from a handful of employees to more than 160. We have leveraged the talented workforce, not just at the major research universities like NC State, Duke, and Chapel Hill, but we've done incredibly well sourcing highly skilled technical talent from our junior colleges, who provide the pipeline of employees as we grow and scale our operations. With a now more than 35,000 square foot footprint, for semiconductor manufacturing and rapid product prototyping from our headquarters here in North Carolina. Our products are now being used around the world, where they're being integrated into sophisticated 5G communications equipment, refrigerating drugs and vaccines, changing the merchandising landscape for food and beverage on home delivery of groceries, all with a solid state semiconductor and sustainable foundation that originated from right here in the Research Triangle region. The net result of that, from an access to capital perspective, which is the lifeblood of an entrepreneurial company, from our headquarters here in Carolina, and that now 160-person team, we have a dozen employees in Asia, a handful now on the West Coast, and we have brought in to date almost $200 million in venture capital and private equity investment from some of the most respected investors from around the world to build and scale our operations right here in the Research Triangle region. As Ryan alluded to, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm always living on a plane, accessing global investors. So the air infrastructure here allows me to get to anywhere in the world within 18 to 24 hours and allow me to show up at that airport about 15 minutes before an international flight takes place. And having lived on the West Coast of New York City, I can guarantee you that's next to impossible pre or post COVID. We take the mission of what Ryan's team is doing, as well as the broader Select team, very seriously. Having grown up in a Rust Belt city and hearing for years that American companies can't compete, can't manufacture, must move into software, we take our mission here for a sustainable cooling world very seriously, and we're very proud to call Research Triangle and the Research Triangle region our home. Thank you for your time and attention. I'm happy to answer any questions that come through Ryan or that you send into the chat feature on GoToMeeting.
Tony, that was awesome. Thank you so much. All right, that concludes our presentation. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to use the chat box to ask your question. We'd be happy to answer. So I'm not seeing any questions, but we really hope that this has been beneficial for you today. We hope you learned a little bit about the state of North Carolina and more particularly the Research Triangle region. Both Bill and I are happy to take any questions. And if you have questions for Tony, you can send those to us as well. And we'll try to get you answers, but we look forward to working with everyone and really appreciate everyone's time today on the webinar. Thank you so much.